Hi, and welcome to your session with Coach Jill. My name is Jill Brito, and I'm a psychotherapist, counselor, and coach that lives in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. And today we will be doing Technical Tuesdays. So on Tuesdays, I will focus on a more technical issue as it pertains to counseling or coaching that hopefully will be beneficial to you and your life. So let's dive right in. So the technique that I'm going to cover today is around anchoring. Now here's the power of anchoring. I was first exposed to this actually many years ago, not knowing the power of anchors. And then when I took advanced neurolinguistics programming, my coach at the time, who is Dr. Scott McFall, who has a hugely successful practice in the States. He was originally in Bismarck, North Dakota, and now he lives in Florida. He was training me on NLP and advanced NLP, and I had a question for Scott, which was, I've always questioned why it is when men specifically put their arms around my shoulder, so kind of like the buddy thing, that I would instantly become frustrated, upset, just kind of in a negative state. And so he was explaining the concept of anchoring, and he asked me, has anything ever happened to you earlier in your life where that would have been reinforced? And I really couldn't think of anything. And so he just out of the blue mentioned, did you not tell me at one point that your father passed away when you were in your early 20s? And I said, well, yeah. And he's like, well, that would probably be one of the most traumatic events in your life, especially if you have a good relationship with your dad, which I did. And so he said, so you were at probably the most negative time in your young life, and chances are mostly men would come and try to console you by putting their arm around your shoulder in that way. And I said, okay. Now he says, what's interesting is it's usually just men that do that thing. And what you probably notice too is if a woman did that thing, which is not very common, where they put their arm around your shoulder, you would feel indifferent, like it wouldn't affect you in the same way. But men specifically really kind of gave you more like a heebie-jeebie thing. So I thought for a while, I said, I'm not really homophobic. I hug most of my friends, which often makes them uncomfortable. But I really didn't understand for many years why I was affected in that way. And he says, well, that's how an anchor works. So when you're at the peak of an emotion, whether it's positive or negative, you're touched in a very unique way, which for me was that arm around the shoulder. And so it anchors that negative feeling in that area. Now, that's not to say that every time I was touched in that way that I felt grief. I guess the best way to summarize it, I just felt awful. And so he kind of continued, and he's like, well, similarly, when you get set that way in a negative way, you can also set it in a positive way. And that was really reinforced for me when I went to UPW in Dallas. And our instructor, Joseph McClendon III, kind of reaffirmed this for me, and I've been using it with clients ever since with really great results. So how do you set an anchor? So like I just mentioned in the story with my dad, it's really important that you achieve a peak state. So peak state, again, oftentimes could be really negative. But in our example today, I want you over the course of the next week, if you would, to just kind of pay attention to when you're feeling good. Now that could be, I feel grateful. That could be, I feel loving. That could be that you feel joyous. It could really be any positive state. And when that happens, there's two ways that I want you to set the anchor. The first is I want you to touch your body in a unique way. Now that sounds a little bit, pardon. What I mean by that is, like for me, for gratitude, I just tug my right ear. So whenever I feel grateful, that's my gratitude set. When I feel loving, I just kind of set it on like where a band would be placed. So just kind of a unique location. Obviously, if it's the palm of your hand, a lot of people will touch you there and it makes the anchor that much weaker. Again, that's why there was so much strength in the back of my neck because it's probably a unique location. Not a lot of people will touch you there in that way. So for me, the one that I use the most, like I said, is gratitude, and it's a right ear pull. So what I'd like you to do for the next few days, several times a day, is just notice when you feel grateful or good. And I want you to just set that anchor in that unique position. So again, that could be an ear, it could be just the closing of a fist, and that could be it for you. But just kind of a unique location. So peak of an emotion, set the anchor. The next thing that's important is while you set the anchor, I want you to smile. Notice that feeling of gratitude or love or whatever it is. Smile and say yes. Now for me, when I say gratitude, I just change it up a little bit. I don't say yes, I say yeah. Because I don't know about you, but when you're feeling grateful, it's more of a yeah kind of feeling, just that you feel okay. Now once that anchor is set, celebrate a little bit. Now how do you celebrate? You just, as Joseph would say, you would just smile and shake your booty for maybe 4 to 5 seconds. Celebration is just as important as any of these steps. We want to celebrate when we are feeling positive states rather than negative ones. So once those anchors have been set, and like I said, I'd like you to repeat this for at least 3 to 4 days, maybe 4 to 5 times a day. Whenever you feel grateful, whenever you feel good, whenever you feel proud, set your anchor, smile, say yes, and celebrate. So once that's done, and that's a really kind of fun process, the next kind of step is to put it together. So whenever you're in a negative state, just notice what's happening with your physiology. Notice what's happening within your body. Where do your eyes go? Where is your breathing? Does your jaw clench? Like I did this with a client the other day, and his fist just got really, really tight. He started to shift a little bit more within his feet, both right and left. And what I noticed for him is he does this pattern every single time he gets upset. Now his upset was frustration. And so I got him to notice that. Now the second part is around pattern interrupt. Now pattern interrupt is simply where you create this kind of vacuum in the brain. Now you've all experienced this, where let's say you're doing an activity like you're reading a book, or you're playing video games, or you're watching TV, and then you stepped out of that activity to go to the kitchen. You get in the kitchen and you're just kind of, what am I in here for? Now people will say that's just an old moment, like you're getting older, but that's really what a pattern interrupt is about, where there's kind of a vacuum created in the brain and your brain gets searching for more information. So how do we do a pattern interrupt? So again, once you acquired that negative state of mind, what I'd like you to do is just jump up and down. So you get up from that negative position. So if you're sitting down, jump up and down. Now what's most important is that your feet lift off the ground. And what I usually do is just make big movements. So I flail my arms and just do this for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once you've done that, fire your anchor, smile and say yes, and celebrate. And again, the celebration is hands on the hips and shake your booty for 5 seconds. So one last time. First part is setting your positive anchors. So whenever you're feeling at the good part of the emotion, where you're just having a great day, where you're feeling on top of your game, set that anchor. As you set that anchor, smile, say yes. Once it's nice and set, celebrate a little bit by shaking your butt for a few seconds. Then when you want to go from a negative state to a positive state, notice what you're feeling when you're in that negative state. Notice how your body is, so that you can kind of circumvent it quicker in the future. Most people get into states kind of, it's like hypnosis. They just don't know how they do it. They just are negative. I often work with clients that just say, I don't know, I'm just angry. I've always been angry. That's how I've always been, or I've always been a worrier. It's how I've always been. It's all I've ever known. So what I say to people is you have specific behaviors that you do in order to access those states. So just be aware of them. So aware of the negative behavior, and then jump up if you're lying down, shake your body out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire off your anchor and say yes, and then celebrate. So that's it. That's today's coaching lesson. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't hesitate to hit the like button on the bottom. I often welcome your comments and suggestions in terms of what videos you would like to see in the future. I thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day.